Okay, we are going to look at our last set of special right triangles and these relationships. These are really important, especially with future math classes. So, I start with an equilateral triangle. I know that all of the angles are going to be 60. So if this is x right here, and I draw my altitude in, okay, I know if this is 90, then this angle would have to be 30. Okay, so I know equilateral triangles have a 60-degree angle. I know if I draw my altitude in, this would be a right angle, and so this angle up here would have to be 30. Which would mean that these two triangles would have to be congruent to each other, which also means this part would have to be congruent to this part. And so therefore, if this is, let's say 20, then this side would have to be 10. And you could use Pythagorean theorem to find your altitude. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to start off with my first guy right here, my 30, 60, 90. So remember, if this side is 8, of course this side is going to be 4, so we can use Pythagorean theorem to find my last side. So this is going to be 4 squared plus x squared is equal to 8 squared. 16 plus x squared is equal to 64. I subtract 16. X squared is equal to 48. I take my square root. X is equal to radical 48, but we know that we can't have our radical 48 is not simplified. So you can do this one of two ways. Your first way is, if you know your perfect squares, well, 48 is actually 16 times 3. So I know that x could be 4 radical 3 in this case. Erase this. Your other way, of course, to simplify is I have my 48 divided by 2 is 24, divided by 2 is 12, divided by 2 is 6, divided by 2 is 3, divided by 3 is 1. I'd have 2 2's on the outside and a radical 3, and so I still have my answer, which is 4 radical 3 in this case. My next one, I do the same thing. Let's do Pythagorean theorem just to figure out what that third side is. So this is going to be 3 squared plus x squared is equal to 6 squared. 9 plus x squared is equal to 36. I subtract 9. X squared is equal to 45. 45, ugh, I don't know what I'm doing. X squared is equal to 27. There we go. I take the square root of each side. I simplify 27, either by knowing that 27 is 9 times 3, or I can do 27 and break it down. 27 divided by 3 is 9, 9 divided by 3 is 3, 3 divided by 3 is 1, and so I'd have a 3 on the outside. Either way, this is going to be 3 radical 3. And this class is all about patterns, so this is 3 radical 3. I don't know why it keeps doing that. It's not pleasant. So this side right here is 3 radical 3. Why does that keep doing that? Okay. So. Okay. My last one, if we have any guesses, I would say this is probably just going to be if I'm looking at this pattern, my short side was 4, my altitude is 4 radical 3, my short side was 3, this was 3 radical 3, so if I'm going to venture any guesses, I would say that this last one is probably 1 radical 3. don't know why that keeps doing that. Okay, so I go through Pythagorean theorem. 1 squared plus x squared equals 2 squared. 1 plus x squared is equal to 4. I subtract 1, x squared is equal to 3. X is equal to radical 3. So sure enough. So what you need to see is the relationship. Okay, every 30, 60, 90 triangle has 3 parts. It has your short leg, your long leg, and your hypotenuse. So here is my hypotenuse, here is my short leg, and this is my long leg. And if my hypotenuse was, or say my short leg is x, my hypotenuse would be 2 times x, because it's always 2 times my short leg, and my long leg is going to be whatever my short leg is times radical 3. And that happens every single time. So unlike your 45, 45, 90, I have 2 things to remember. And I only ask you to do these 2 things. So I know that my hypotenuse is equal to 2 times my short leg. And I also know, so that's going to be hypotenuse is equal to 2 times SL. And I also know my long leg, the longer leg, is equal to my short leg times radical 3. So my long leg is equal to short leg radical 3. So those are the 2 things that you have to remember. My hypotenuse is 2 times my short leg. My long leg is my short leg times radical 3. Because in most instances, you will not be given all 3 sides. So my first example here, first I have to determine is the 7, a short leg, a long leg, or hypotenuse. And I just have to remember my 2 things. I know my hypotenuse is equal to 2 times my short leg, and my long leg is equal to my short leg times radical 3. In this case, my 7, that's going to be my short leg. I want to find my hypotenuse, so that's going to be 2 times 7, which is equal to 14. You guys also know that this was an equilateral triangle, and so that's part of the side. And then this one right here, my y is going to be 7 radical 3, because it's my short leg times radical 3. That's how I found my long leg. For here, I'm given my hypotenuse is 10, so x would have to be 5, because my hypotenuse is 2 times my short leg. Okay, and so I divide by 2, and for these, you really don't have to do much work because there's not much algebra. I'll show you the ones where you do have to do work. So these ones here, it's just there's nothing to it. X is equal to 5, y is going to be equal to, well, it's my short leg times radical 3, so y is equal to 5 radical 3, okay, because it's my short leg times radical 3. In this case, I'm given my long leg. My long leg is equal to my short leg times radical 3, so I can divide each part by radical 3. The radical 3's divide out, and so x must be equal to 8. And I think you'll start to see that your short leg is always the key. And I know my hypotenuse is equal to 2 times my short leg, so my hypotenuse, which is y, has to be equal to 16. My next one here, this is my long leg, and so I just write out what I know. I know my long leg is equal to my short leg times radical 3. Now this one's a little bit more challenging. These are the ones that I want you to show work on. So I divide each side by radical 3. I have x is equal to 9 over radical 3. Now we've discussed before in our warm-ups that you cannot have a radical in the denominator. So what I need to do is what's called rationalize the denominator. So I need to multiply by radical 3 over radical 3. So this is going to be 9 radical 3 over plain old 3. The 9 divided by 3 is 3, and so x is equal to 3 radical 3. Okay, my hypotenuse, which is y, is equal to 2 times my short leg, so 2 times x. So my hypotenuse is equal to 2 times 3 radical 3. So my hypotenuse is equal to 6 radical 3. Next one, again, it's going to be a little bit, one of those little more complicated ones. This is my long leg. And if you're not given your long leg with your radicals, this is kind of the bigger pain. And so I know my long leg is equal to my short leg, which is x in this case, radical 3. I divide each part by radical 3. X is equal to 21 over radical 3. I multiply by radical 3 over 3. I have 21 radical 3 over 3 is equal to x. These divide out to be 7, and so this is 7 root 3. Okay, my y value in this case is going to be, so it's my hypotenuse is equal to 2 times my short leg. So my hypotenuse is equal to 14 radical 3. Okay, last one of these. Again, this is my long leg. My long leg is equal to my short leg times radical 3. Times radical 3. I divide each part by radical 3. Now this one's a little bit different because when I have two things in radicals, they can divide out. Radical 3 goes into radical 6, radical 2 times. So I have 5 radical 2 is equal to x. So this is 5 radical 2. My y is going to be equal to 2 times 5 radical 2. And so my y value is going to be 10 radical 2. All right, on to a couple more examples. So next question is, what is the length of the altitude of an equilateral triangle whose sides have length 2? So I draw out my equilateral triangle. Okay. I have to know a couple things. I have to know what an equilateral triangle is. I have to know what an altitude is. So this is my altitude. Now, I discussed before that if this is an altitude, and I know that this is 60, okay, and I know this is congruent to itself, I know that these two triangles are congruent. You could do by angle, angle, side. Okay, which means that this part is congruent to this part. But we have our 30, 60, 90 here as well. If this is 2, this would have to be 1, which means my altitude would have to be 1 radical 3, or just radical 3. So you could write 1 radical 3 or radical 3. The next two, just a little bit more challenging. It says find the values of x, y, and z in the diagrams. Okay, so I look at what I know. I have my 30, 60, 90. Okay, so I look at my small one. It didn't really matter which one you went with first in this case. 3 radical 3 is my long leg in this case, and I know my long leg is equal to my short leg times radical 3. So divide each part by radical 3. These divide out. I have 3 is equal to x, so I know this is 3. And I know my hypotenuse is 2 times my short leg, so my y value is going to be 6. I'm going to change colors, and we're going to go to the other side. So let's look at the other side. I'm given my short leg, and I need to find my hypotenuse. I know that my hypotenuse is equal to 2 times my short leg, so z must be equal to 6 radical 3. Okay, let's go to the next one. Now in this one, you're given a non-common side, so I'm going to have to find a couple of things first. Okay, right here, I'm given my long leg. I'm going to write what I know. I know my long leg is equal to my short leg, which I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to just say, let's call this, in this case I'm going to call it W, is equal to my long leg, or my short leg, times radical 3. I divide by radical 3, I divide by radical 3, and I have, well, my short leg here has to be 8. And so this is going to be the key to everything to each side. Now I have enough information to find z. Z has to be 16 because it's 2 times my short leg. In this case, I have a 45, 45, 90. This is an isosceles right triangle. If this is 8, then this also has to be 8. And if you remember, in a 45, 45, 90, the hypotenuse is equal to your leg times radical 2. So this is going to be, so my hypotenuse in this case is going to be 8 radical 2. And that's